Good day, good people, and welcome back to my channel. Today, guys, I'm just giving my opinion or thought on a certain situation, guys. Yeah, so just tune in. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to share. And give me feedback if you guys have anything to add. I'm open to comments as well.
I made up in my mind that I wanted to find a boyfriend. So I was like, let me just put on something real tight, real slutty looking or whatever, and walk the streets. I snuck out. My dad, he worked at night, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And my mother, she went to bed 9 a.m., 9 p.m. every night. So that was one of the nights that I figured out that I wanted to go out and look for a boyfriend.
Hearing this is the story, it just kind of, opened my eyes up to, what we deal with in our communities. When I heard her mention how when she was 14 or 13, I believe, she was looking for a boyfriend, and she had somewhat of a father figure in her household. It wasn't biologically her father, but she did have a father in a home that was providing, of course. So 9 times out of 10, he couldn't be present in her life. And so, she went, looking for male attention. We look at, parent roles like it's just that simple. Sure, you have children that you've raised to be respectful, to go to school, make something of themselves. But have you really taught them to have morals, to have value, to be disciplined, to manage their emotions, or even have faith? Just think about that for a minute. You have to cover every angle aspects of life because with the wrong influence around your children can take a second to diminish everything you've taught them. The question was asked, does a woman really know when she's ready? And to be honest, a woman's body is built for reproduction. Some start at 9 to 10 years old, and so on. I've once heard a man say, a woman's body tells her when she's ready. Yes, that is very true. Would you say a 9 and a 10-year-old can make a decision or consent to deal with a man because her body is ready? Some would disagree. Mothers and fathers need to stand as a united front and educate their daughters on how to protect their flowers and how important it is to preserve themselves when the day will come for a man to ask the father to take her hand in marriage. Notice I said protect and preserve, ladies.
I made up in my mind that I wanted to find a boyfriend. So I was like, let me just put on something real tight, real slutty looking or whatever, and walk the streets. I snuck out. My dad, he worked at night, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And my mother, she went to bed 9 p.m. every night. So that was one of the nights that I figured out that I wanted to go out and look for a boyfriend. We live near a park called Charles Park down in St. Petersburg, Florida. And that's where I started walking. And I heard a spitting sound. It was a guy standing at the park next to his car. He had a Cutlass Supreme. And when he asked me to come towards him, I went towards him. We just started talking. And he asked me if I was a twerker. I was like, I don't know what a twerker is. I thought a twerker was like a stripper or something like that. I'm like, no, I'm not a twerker. Then he asked me my name. He asked me my age. I told him, I said, my name is Christina. I'm 14. And he just was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not 14. I guess because I looked older. After that, he got up a little bit closer to me and he put his hands in between my legs. I was wearing a short skirt, so he was able to do that. And I let him do it, because I felt like if this is what it's going to take to get a boyfriend, I was like, okay. So he did that. Once he did that, he asked me to get in the car and holler at his homeboy. His guy friend was already sitting in his car, but he was sitting in the driver's seat. So I got in the car. And immediately I ended up taking my underwear off and I put them underneath the seat because I knew in my mind that we were probably going to have sex. And I thought that's what, I needed to do to get ready.
We need to teach these young girls that, yes, they are born with their value and it is meant to be preserved. Not every man or any kind of man should experience their value. That value is to be bought. You hear me? It's meant to be bought by her husband, and that will be added to his value.
Spoken word and poetry. I say that I was consensually gang raped beginning at the age of 14. And then shortly after that, I became a sex fiend. So I can't, again, I don't think that it was appropriate. Of course, being an adult and seeing the things that I did and with the men that I did it with, that's completely inappropriate. Mm-hmm. So the age of consent is like, I can't really answer that. It's still inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to make light of this issue because there's some people that have really been through some tragic things.
Mm-hmm. Were you drunk? Were you high? Were you on drugs? What was the most amount of guys that you have been with in a night?
One night, probably about 20.
How does that even, like, how does 20 guys even get together, right? Like, I'm trying to think, like, was this a party? Was it, or just word had gotten out about you so much that now it was like a main attraction almost?
Yeah, that like Disney World or something, like crazy. Yeah.
Everyone has to see.
When you hear a woman say she's dealt with multiple men in one day, not just over time, but in one day, that's straight what they call demon time, because women wasn't designed for multiple. Imagine trying to commit to just one partner for a lifetime after you've just reached over 5 and up partners at a time. That's crazy, right? I'm not trying to shame the sister or be insensitive to her story, but I'm simply just trying to shed light to the conditions of our communities now, how it's important to start on what God created versus what man says it's okay. I feel for these sisters nowadays. She needed her father. We got to stop refusing God's order.
My attention and be like, because sometimes they want to have sex with me in the bathroom. So I would leave my abstinence program class and go have sex with them in the bathroom. I lived a double life. My parents, they had me in abstinence programs. They had me in True Love Waits,
The church.
I played basketball, I did all of that.
Yeah.
Y'all, the Most High, He created it that way for a reason, y'all. And to be honest, she isn't the only sister that has gone through this situation. There are too many of our sisters that haven't been taught their value. So many of our sisters that have had their value taken away from people that was supposed to protect them. How many women have been raped, molested, taken advantage of before they could even understand their bodies? Too many. Once you break God's proper order, the foundation is already broken. Now, I think it's time that we stop the generational curses and teach, protect our children, raise them, and stop maintaining them. We have the power to do so, guys. And also, children, don't be afraid to come and talk to your parents about anything that's going on in your life. Parents, we need to open up the doors, open up the arms for our children to be able to express themselves, to be able to tell them what they're going through. A lot of times, children be crying out to their parents, and because the parents are too busy on whatever their life is, they ignore their children. But I want you guys to create an environment, a safe space for the children to be able to come to you guys, to talk to you guys about these things, because it's so very common.
So I had sex with those guys. They told me to get into certain positions so they could record me in different ways. But I think the craziest thing about that night was as I was leaving, there was a corkboard next to the door that had like runaway girls on there. So I feel like there's like people who just kind of pray or look for runaway girls.